last few videos, I talked about depression, which is some of what I'm about. I talked about destigmatizing depression by separating out the negative effects of depression with the natural manifestation of our natures for some of us. Many of us who suffer from depression, in fact, 300 million people are diagnosed with depression around the world. That's not counting all the people who aren't diagnosed with it and live with it. Some of us, not all of us, but some of us suffer from really difficult ways of living. In living with depression, I wanted to change my reality. Of course, in the beginning, I tried to cure myself. I believed I could heal from depression in the sense that I would be normal. I would be like everybody else. I talked about how after many, many, many years of psychotherapy, spiritual psychotherapy, meditation practice, I learned how to live with it rather than cure it. And in the last few years, I learned how to live with it in a way whereby I could experience fulfillment and joy, if not the type of fulfillment of ambition that I saw the people doing around me. In this way, in separating out those negative effects of depression with the elements of my nature, I accomplished something of joy and fulfillment and peace and happiness. Something of it. I'm here to say today that I still have a long way to go. I'm still working really hard. I talked in other videos about shoulds. Shoulds are pretty familiar in the self-help community. Don't should yourself, those sorts of things. The thing about shoulds I wanted to point out before, is that we can't help ourselves. This is actually an evolutionary part of society. We can start to recognize and become aware and separate out shoulds from what we might want to be doing and what might be debilitating or toxic shoulds. Toxic is such a sexy word these days. That's all good, and it's all important to recognize the self-talk and to reverse it if possible. Today I wanted to talk about how difficult it is to reverse the really deep-seated shaming that I've internalized in this process of what I should be doing, what other people are doing, and what I'm not doing. It's really hard. It can go weeks and months of me feeling terrible, but having no words as to why I feel that way. And I'm really accustomed now to sinking into that feeling and being with that feeling and recognizing where it's coming from. It's taken a lot. And I encourage everybody to practice these moments of silence as often as we can, to just feel into what is there and to start to be aware, at least start to, or to continue to, if this is work you're familiar with, to be aware that behind those feelings are often shaming thoughts that are so deeply embedded that sometimes we can't hear them. Feeling into that isn't easy because it's not even ours. It was just handed down and ingested. How endless that work feels. And what the alternatives have been, which is usually to distract and to sink into substance abuse or some other form of addiction that will relieve the pain, because at times it just gets to be too much. And that's okay too for a while, actually. Addiction has actually in the past saved my life from the endless feeling, the endlessness of the negative effects of depression. Now, I still struggle with addictive behaviors. It's really hard, and I have this technique to go back on to feel what I'm feeling as deeply as I can for as long as I can, and then to forgive myself when I need the distraction, and to be careful with balancing out those feelings, understanding where they come from, understanding that they're not mine, and understanding that in a way I don't have a choice. And this is very unpopular, especially in philosophy of taking 100% responsibility. I'm very anti-victim. I believe that, again, very unpopular, that I'm not a victim. I do have choice. My choices might be really fucking shitty. And they're shitty for a lot of people. They're still choices. They will always be choices. I don't blame or give myself excuses. I do investigate to find out reasons why my choices might not be so great. And I still have to make them. I don't feel like I have a choice in terms of becoming the president or becoming an astronaut. That's probably not in my future. I don't have that choice, and I don't have the choice to live a life of, I don't know how to say it exactly. I don't have the choice to live a life of hard work. The work I do is all internal. It's hard, really hard. Social, like the kind of social, uh, get up there and go get 'em kind of life. I don't have that choice. That's not a choice that I have. Maybe someday, but not right now, and not in my past. My choices are limited. So when I say I don't have a choice, I don't have a choice but to continue to do this work, because if I don't, the other choice, the option, is so horrific that it doesn't feel like a choice at all. Even though it is, it doesn't feel like that. So I'm here today to tell you about this, to tell you that the choices I have are really hard, and the self-talk that I can bear and endemic is brutal. The only choice I feel like I have, as hard as it is and as exhausting as it is to just keep going. Keep going with this work. Keep going and have faith that those moments of joy and happiness, they'll be there. I've experienced them. I know they'll be there. And sometimes that's the best thing we can hope for. And it's not a bad thing. Thank you. And I hope you continue the fight, because it's worth it.